Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Friday, July 23rd. This is your end of day and end of week video. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through here is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through here is for information, education purposes only. If the screen is a little fuzzy, it's because YouTube has not rendered the high-def version of the video. Just give it a little bit more time. So, theme of the day, look at this. Amazing from where we were in the beginning of the week, how we started the week. Just like that, we're back to record highs for the S&P and for the Nasdaq 100. Just impressive when we look at this chart. Another touch and basically go off of the 50-day moving average after Monday. All green bars. Again, you can kind of probably run out of adjectives to kind of talk about this week's price action, but I'll just say pretty amazing, right? Another nice touch off the top of value. One of the comments that we made a little bit earlier this morning was just talking about market breadth. It is one of those things that that is kind of an issue, is that we are still not seeing as full participation as we would like to see. We looked at the advanced decline line. You can look at the McClellan oscillator as well, right? So when we look at the advanced decline line, that's the one thing that stands out to me. If I'm going to complain about anything right now, that would be the only thing, is that when you look at this chart, and every time, I can't match it up perfectly, but every time that we've kind of come into this 50-day moving average this year, right here, and if you pair that up with, which was a chart that I sent out earlier today, when you pair that up with the advanced decline line for the NYSE stocks, which does include more than the S&P, it includes ADRs, it includes a whole bunch of things, but we've seen this all the way back from 2020, here. So confirmation all along the way until recently. Now this will update. It doesn't update during the day, so maybe it's a little bit of a move back. But that's something to kind of be mindful of, because it is a divergence, even though price is going higher. And a couple of things that we talked about today were just making adjustments, right? If you see divergences in the market, you could be a little bit more conservative. I think there's plenty of reasons to be conservative too going into next week. I don't know the percentage. Because I didn't get around to checking the percentage, but we've got a huge amount of earnings next week. So what I said going into earnings season is that earnings season is a tough time to swing trade usually. But what we normally see is, if you really pay attention to what the tape is telling you and what names are going to have good earnings reports, like a Snap today, for example, you're going to find some new names, to trade off of that, and some pin action off of that. So, that was perfectly today what happened with Snap, or I should say yesterday's results with Snap was exactly what I was referring to as we entered earnings season, about some trading opportunities. So that's really what I will be looking for next week. Of course, I'll have a couple trades on too for for some further run into earnings, but we certainly have seen that so far with a lot of the growth names. Again, it's something that happens over and over. It's the buy the rumor, sell the news. You can go back and in a couple of my videos from a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that you're going to see a lot of these growth names run into the earnings report. And then what half of them will do, and we don't know, because these names, most of them have not reported yet, especially some of the bigger names, but your Amazon, your Google, your Facebook, your Shopify, right? They all report. I think they all report next week, unless maybe one of them doesn't. Microsoft, if I didn't say that one. Some of them are going to be able to go up if they have great earnings, but some of them are not, and it really depends. Part of it, and again, they're going to have good earnings. But part of that is the path that they made running into the earnings. If they're going to run up 15-20% into the number, then there's less of a probability that they're actually going to go higher on earnings, because some of that is already built into the stock price. All right. So again, what does that refer to? Buy the rumor, sell the news. That is a huge staple of how it works in terms of trading over and over and over. So that typically is, that is what we're seeing right now. And I think a couple names like Amazon could continue to do that next week. All right. So I wanted to talk about that, but yeah, the other thing that we have next week is Mr. Powell speaks again, right? So Fed meeting, 2-day Fed meeting next week, right? They give the decision and the press conference, which is now there's a press conference for every one of these things, which it didn't used to be that way. Up until I think it was last year, it used to be a press conference every other Fed meeting. Now it's every Fed meeting we get to listen to Powell. You could tell I'm really excited about that, but that will be Wednesday. So, keep in mind, everybody is going to be hanging on every syllable, every word of what Powell says about inflation, jobs, transitory, things like that, tapering, right? The timeline for tapering, the dot plots, the possibility of a rate hike, right? So all of that is, it's going to be a very noisy week. So what do I do for, I don't make predictions. I can't tell you if the price is going to go up or down with all of these things. For me, I just don't have a lot of edge with all those events. So I took off a lot of risk today. I did what my trading plan told me to do. This was a really nice week of performance. My P&L for the year is now up at the highs of the year, so I'm pleased with that. It's not reflective of. It's not the same thing as last year, but I'm at a slower pace than I was than in 2020. But that's okay. I'm trading. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trading what's in front of me. I do make mistakes. I made a couple of mistakes last week. You got to be able to get over those mistakes very quickly in this market and move on to what's in front of you. You can't dwell on what's in the past. Whether they're mistakes or whether or not you had a really good week, you got to keep your eyes focused on the road ahead, right? And so that's what I see for next week. I really want to be paying attention, watching what some of these names that report next week, and being nimble and being able to kind of move in and out of things and opportunities as we see them. We certainly saw a lot of opportunities this week. Nasdaq, or if you want to look at the Qs, that's also out to all-time highs there. So very, very pretty, out to new highs. IWM continues to move sideways. Again, to me, it's kind of the question mark. If you want to look at microcaps too, a little bit weaker. Mid caps a little bit better. What about the S&P? Instead of market cap weighted as SPY is, you could look at RSP for equally weighted. It's better than it was last week. Last week it was flirting with a breakdown, right? So we have not broken through the value area for the month, but it's better. So we'll keep an eye on that. We're right in the middle of this value area. Two levels to watch will be 142.50. Excuse me, 152.50. It's been a long week. And 140, call it 149.80. I always round down a little bit on those, but that's what I would watch for the overall equally weighted S&P. Let's just talk about just a couple other performers for the day. It was the home builders that were the best, and actually the best for the week, believe it or not, right? I know everybody, you turn on the TV, you hear about the FANG names, big cap growth, big internet names, but it was really the home builders that had the best performance. They were up close to 6% for the week. So they made a really nice move, and above value. So that was your best performing group. A couple names that stood out to me. I am long Lennar in the TTG Trend Portfolio, right? That's starting to make a nice move. That had good earnings and a nice earnings reaction, or took a couple days. DHI made a nice rebound from yesterday's earnings report, which started the day lower and went higher. So interesting, right? That you did have some other areas of the market perform pretty well. Also, things like consumer staples and utilities were strong today. I don't know if anybody noticed that either, but they were the consumer staples were up 1.2%, and utilities were strong again. They were up also about 1.3%. Other strong groups that I'm seeing: medical devices, extremely strong. A little bit of a dip this week on the back of like ISRG, which sold off, really gave some opportunities in things like INMD, which almost made a new high today. I know TMO made a new high because we've got a bunch of traders who trade TMO a lot in the trading room. But impressive. Another name within the group, EW, which has seen some call activity repetitively in the last couple weeks. That name is out to new highs. So just covering a couple groups. Also, FDN made a new high today. That is the internet group. XLC also made a new high today too, which is communications. Remember, a couple years ago they decided to split out, or they meshed. I guess is the right term to use. That's the term that I'm going to use. They decided to take telecom, which was a S&P sector, and make it into a new sector, and split some of tech out of the group, and they made it this communication sector, which the top weights are Google and Facebook. That was out to new highs today. All right, so up 2.5% today. Talking about some single stocks, here's what I traded today. Right, so I always show the trade blotter. Facebook was something that I was holding on for the week. It was a losing position. It was a name that I put on a week ago, so I was able to get out of that for marginal profits in this one. And then I started to really play Facebook today as some pin action off of Snap, and that really worked. So I just kept on rolling, right? This is a really important technique if you're trading options, right? You want to stay in positions as long as you can if they're trending. One of the ways that I do that is I'll establish a position, and if it works for me and I think that there's more to it, I will take profits in the original position, right? So I was originally in the 370 calls, and I got out of the 370 calls, and 730 paid 585, and then you roll them to the higher strike, right? Because every time you do that, you're locking in profits, right? You should be paying less for the higher up strike, right? So you're letting your winners run by doing that. So I did that like 3 times today with Facebook. It just kept on working, right? So I here's the second winning position, and then I roll that to a third position, and I'm still in some of those calls. But you could see sometimes when the market moves like this, you could see some of the other days. I traded a little bit less, but today I just kept on going after it in terms of I saw that there was momentum. Roku was actually what I traded first. That was one of the names that we talked about in the pre-market session today. What a monster day. I did not stay long this thing throughout the day, and it is what it is. Sometimes you just don't know a name's going to go up 12% in a day. So if anybody happened to stay through in this thing all the way to the end, congratulations to them. But I was very happy to make some quick gains and then move on. CrowdStrike worked for me as well. I've been long stock in that one, and I actually added some calls today to this. We'll bring up CrowdStrike. This one did not close on the absolute highs, but it did make an intraday high. But again, still, I've been patient with this thing, and it paid off today, both on the call side as well as the stock side. All right, and then I also played Snap as well today. My thoughts on Snap, which we went over in the midday session at Tribeca Trade Group, is that I think it could continue to run. I really do. If you look at the weekly chart, you have to ask yourself with Snap, is this an overcrowded long, right, where they're going to be taking profits, or are some funds underweight Snap and may have to start buying it here, right? We'll watch. I left on a little bit of a position, right? This is also a name that we added back, I think, on May 28th in the TTG Trend Portfolio, right? Which again is great for part-time traders. So we added that on 528, and we got the whole profit on this thing. So, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this thing continues to run. Price target. I don't know if I think around 100 is going to be my 97 is where I'm looking for this thing to get to. Again, maybe may not get there in a straight line, but I'm going to stick with this thing for as long as it wants to trend. So we'll see. That's kind of again not a prediction because I'll be making adjustments and trading it all the way. But that would be my ultimate target in this thing. And again, that could take a long time. But when a name reports really good earnings and not everybody is all in, which I don't think that they are all in on this thing, I think it has more to it. All right, so I could go over a couple other things. I mean, there's a lot of runners that happen in growth. I could spend another 15 minutes. I won't. I'll leave that for the TTG weekend video for members. But I'm actually pleased to see Deere, a name that I've been watching for a while, get back above its 50-day moving average. We haven't seen that since it broke here. So it did close above there, and we look forward to seeing some other areas of the market possibly participate. The performance for the week, like I said, the home builders were up almost 6%. Semis had a strong week; they were up 4%. After a bad week last week. Biotech was up 3.8%. Solar, metals and mining. So again, very strong week for the market. SPY was up 2%. Small caps did about the same. The Qs outperformed; they were up 3%. What didn't perform was the Chinese internet names. Whew, nasty price action in the Chinese internet names, down 10%. A lot of call buying in there, and they get it wrong every once in a while, right? We talk about that. I'm not going to spend too much time there, but with these options, right? There's speculative options. Doesn't matter how aggressive they are. Some work, some don't, and we certainly have seen call positioning in things like BABA, KWeb, and sometimes they get it wrong. It just is what it is. Other things that didn't perform that well this week: gold miners, utilities, which were strong last week, underperformed. This is more of a risk-on rally this week. You could see, looking at these two ETFs, growth versus value. Growth was up 3.3%, and value was up about 1%. So very strong performance out of growth names this week. All right, guys, that is it. I think for this week, we talked about some events to watch out for next week. Melly, I also got a target in this one. HCNP, again, so this was very, this was good for me this week. And so we'll be back at it. We'll have a lot to review in the weekend. TTG weekend member videos. We do 2 of those every week. If you are interested in being a member of the Tribeca Trade Group, right, and being a part of a trading community the teamwork that we had this week was phenomenal. Really great stuff. Everybody's sharing ideas, sharing trade entries, exits, and really just adds to the community, the valuable community that we have at Tribeca Trade Group, second to none, in my opinion. Right? No pumping and dumping that happens in these other places. We're just, we're striving to kind of really do well together and kind of learn, make sure that our mistakes are few and that we learn from the mistakes and keep the mistakes on the small side. Right? You could be wrong a lot of times in this market. You just don't want to stay wrong. Right? But yeah, there's our link. It's right on my my Twitter page, and yeah, I give it a try. I think if you're really looking to kind of add value with what you're doing, and looking for a place where you can bounce ideas off of one another, come up with some really good ideas, which is what I try to furnish traders with all week long, then I think it's probably the place for you. All right, guys, that's it. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you guys on Monday.